Hello everyone, this is Zibo and welcome to today's World Flipper tier list video. So just a few disclaimers before I start today's video. Number one, this video was edited prior to the global release of the game, so there might be some translation differences on the global release, so bear with me for that, but most of the information are pretty accurate with reference to the JP server as well as the Taiwan server. The second point is, I play on the Taiwan server instead of the JP server, so a lot of my opinions are heavily based on the experiences in the Taiwan server, and I personally feel that the Taiwan server is a better reference for the global players because the JP server is way ahead of global and it's about like 1 year difference, so I think Taiwan server, which is a few patches ahead, is a better reference. And last point, this tier list will only have the 5-star characters on the global release, and more iterations of this tier list will come with more newer units in the future. And without further ado, let us officially start this tier list video. Below are the tier ratings for today's video. So I'll be grouping the units in 4 different tiers: the S tier, A tier, B tier, as well as C tier. So S tier units are generally versatile or strong in many team compositions, or they're just needed to make a really powerful team during the global release, and most units in the S tier has very long shelf life and will still see use even in the future with the introduction of newer and better units. For the A tier units, they're actually units that are on the same power level as S tier units, but the issue with them is either number one, they will fall off eventually as newer units get introduced, or some of these units are not at full potential yet because they don't have a very strong team yet, and they might need some partners to make them stronger in the future. Units in the B tier are usually niche units that work in very specific team comps, but overall much weaker than the units in the previous tiers. So they're okay, but not the best options if you really want to choose the best out of them. And units in C tier are just generally bad. They don't really have any team to build around on global release, and they won't really get any stronger even with the introduction of future units. So try to avoid investing in units in this tier unless you really love them. And the first unit on the C tier is Akari, or I'll just call her Eclair, right? It's much easier to pronounce. So she doesn't really have a team to fit in at the start because she's very normal attack focused. And at the start, light teams are usually either skill damage or fever based, so she doesn't really have a place there. And future units which focuses on power flip and direct attack just makes her inferior in most aspects. So she will be power creep really easily. At the same time, her damage output at the start is heavily outclassed by Elia, which is another 4-star light unit, because of the different team compositions and unit that we can group together for Elia to do a lot of damage for a light team. And the next C tier unit is Suizhen. So Suizhen's leader buff is plus 40% HP, which is relatively weak compared to the many other good units. And poison in general is not very powerful within World Flipper itself if it's used by the user. I personally haven't seen anyone using this unit in the Taiwan server so far, and that pretty much explains how bad this unit is. And in general, there won't be any teams that will build around the idea of poisoning the enemies anytime soon, so the value of Suizhen is really bad on global release. And the third C tier unit is Wagner, the Fire Dragon. So I personally don't own Wagner, neither do I see people using him in the Taiwan server, and I think a lot has to be attributed to the better fire units for the power flip team, and power flip fire teams are not really good at the start of the game and they will only get better in the future, so Wagner's team is not really good at the start. At the same time, he has a really high skill cost, 660, and it's very hard for you to abuse the skill, right? There's a lot of other fire units that can do this abusing of skill much better, so in general, Wagner is only there if you really love fire dragons or if you're really desperately trying to make him work in your fire power flip team. And the last unit on C tier is Leon. So Leon faces the same issue as Wagner, as power flip win teams are just not that strong at the start of the game. He's also outclassed by other win 5-star units, which I'll talk about later because they are really powerful. And power flip win team won't really receive much support until super late into the game. So that makes Leon a really weak unit until very late, and it's not really worthy to invest in him at the start. Let us move on to the B tier next. The first B tier unit is Inaho, and Inaho provides paralysis, decent damage and much support to any Thunder team. So she's definitely viable in any Thunder teams out there, but other units can do her job better at a much lower cost. So number 1, she's out damaged by Ram the 4-star dragon, and you can actually find a lot of 3 and 4-star units that can do paralysis with other debuff effects as well. So that makes her less valuable to invest in as a 5-star unit. She's not really that bad, but she just doesn't have a niche or super duper good in a specific area, so that's why I put her in the B tier. And the second unit in B tier is Neptune, which is your banner girl or your poster girl, because we see her in a lot of the different posters. So she's in B tier because she's super duper niche, only really good in Light Fever team and nothing else. And the issue with Light Fever team is that it's not really strong at the start and will only get stronger as more support get introduced in the future. I personally run a Light Fever team in my Taiwan server account, and the damage output is pretty abysmal, so you guys can see how long you guys have to wait in order to fulfill your Light Fever dream. However, if you really love her sexy design as well as her cool look, then definitely worthy of your investment because she's a really hot unit. But other than that, probably not a good investment if you are looking for the top tier and best units to output more damage. And the last unit in B tier is Belcidia. So Belcidia is a dark element damage dealer. She's a decent unit, she can output a lot of damage and her skill becomes stronger the lower HP she drops to. But as the bosses and level cap increases in the future, it will be a lot harder to survive in a long drawn out battle with her. She does have a high moment right now in the Taiwan server with the introduction of the dark skill damage related weapon as well as the hero with the skyscraper event. But she's already starting to die a lot for me, and I think she won't really last as stronger bosses get introduced in the future. Next, we move on to the A tier. And the first unit on the list is Sonya. So I use Sonya on my Taiwan server account for my water direct attack team. She's an amazing unit that can deal damage, buff the whole team's attack, and also fit into nearly any water teams at the start of the global release. Sadly, she's only A tier because water as a whole is just very weak at the start, but you guys will see more usage for Sonya in the future with more powerful exclusive water units being introduced to power up water teams as a whole. And the second A tier unit is Cagliostro. So Cagliostro is able to heal your whole team's HP as well as deal damage to the enemy. So she's pretty powerful as a support unit at the start of the game for any Thunder teams. So her ability include increasing the recovery for the whole team as well as increasing the skill damage when you recover HP, so she can boost your whole team damage while healing them at the same time. So she's a really good support at the start. However, I put her in the A tier and not the S tier because she will fall off eventually as more and more Thunder Element Beast gets released in the future. So she's not really super future proof and she will fall off eventually, but she's an amazing support nonetheless, and supports are units which can actually last if you don't really focus too much on them. So that's why she's in the A tier. And the third A tier unit is Marina. So Marina is another pirate in World Flipper, right? She's an amazing support for fire power flip teams, and trust me, the damage difference between teams with her and without her is tremendous because the support that she can provide for this fire power flip team is super duper important, and it's a definite must pull if you plan to play fire power flip team. However, she's very niche only in the fire power flip team, and Fire Power Flip team is pretty weak at the start of the game, so she will only get stronger in the future as time goes by. So maybe not a top priority, but definitely something that will gain value over time. And the last unit for the A tier is Phileas. So Phileas is an amazing wind support, providing heal and floating effect to your whole team, which is an essential part for the wind element at the start of the game. One of the strongest team is the Wind Float skill damage team, which is super powerful at the start and is still relevant even to the later part of the game. She has a very good shelf life as she can be used in almost any wind team even in the future, but she's not a top priority because she's more of a support role and not a DPS role, so she doesn't deal heavy damage on her own. And finally, we reach the S tier of the list. The first S tier unit is Varen the Old Man. So Varen provides a lot of damage, an attack buff as well as a penetration ability for your whole team. So you can really slot him into nearly any teams, making him one of the most versatile unit in the game. Trust me, just look at all the different team building guides. You can see Varen being one of the top tier unit for all the Unisians, and this just shows you how powerful he is in terms of versatility. His skill also provides a ring around the unit, making him able to clear smaller minions much easily, and he also stays very relevant in the meta for a very long time, making him an excellent unit to pull for at the start of the game. And the second S tier unit is Lazarette. So Lazarette is a prince, he's a buffer, a healer, as well as a damage dealer, all in one package. So she does his job so well that it's hard to find a unit that can fill his role all at once. He can also tank up for the team and soak damage if he's used as a main unit, so he's an amazing leader, an amazing main character, an amazing Unisian character as well. So simply an amazing all-rounder unit for any light team to have if you want to face against dark bosses. And the third S tier unit is Silty. So Silty is the strongest carry for the win team. You can look around, everybody will put a super good evaluation for her, and she remain relevant for the longest time possible, even until the JP server at current times. She's the reason why Leon is rated so low, because she simply outclassed Leon in all aspects of damage output, making her a must-have if you plan to build a powerful win team. The last unit on today's list is Clarice. So Clarice is one of my first ever maxed out unit, so you can call her my first ever waifu as well. She's an amazing carry for any fire team, dealing loads of damage and making the fire skill damage team a super powerful archetype at the start of the game. Although she will fall off a bit later on, but she can still be used in nearly any fire teams as a strong Unisian support, so her value is definitely there, and she's super duper cute, so that's why I put her in the S tier unit. And that's it for the final tier list for all the 5-star characters on the global release, and hopefully this tier list is helpful in allowing you guys to decide what units to go for or what units to build for when you first start off your journey. Thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like and subscribe in order to see more contents from Zibo Gaming, and I'll see you guys again in my next World Flipper video. Bye guys.